ability as a player is no longer under question.
You cannot really argue that fact, right? We are going to be moving on. The last game for one of these players. JasonZhou on his Druid. FrOzen on the Warlock. Nothing too crazy for JasonZhou in the opening hand. FrOzen, on the other hand, Librarian, Mixtures and Mixtures, good starts, especially with the Spellstone in hand.
I love, adore this Hydra from JasonZhou. If there is one weakness of Cube Warlock, it is its inability to just remove big dumb piles of stats from the board. They don't play Siphon Soul. It's so unlikely that they get a Spellstone all the way upgraded, and even then they need to add a Mortal Coil on top of it to do 8 or spell damage. So I love just keeping a 5-mana 8/8 in your opening hand, especially when going second, when you can just dump it out on Central.
And no Twisted Nether either. They save those for the Control Warlock players. FrOzen, though, has got a pretty reasonable opening here. Hellfire, very nice pickup. The File can get some amazing work done, which may be why FrOzen hasn't quite dropped the Librarian yet. It may even hold on to it for a little bit, because it is a great Defile activator, and especially against aggro Druid, you cannot always rely on there being a 1 health minion alive.
Well, his curve also just dictated that there was no real need to play it. He played Mistress on 1 because it was more stats, then you can tap on 2, then you can Librarian plus tap on 3. It's just the way the curve worked out kind of naturally.
The options now for Jason, he can go wide with the buffs with the Power of the Wild. He could have dropped the Master Yashar out with a guaranteed card draw and buffing up the Mole or the Raven. He's just going to go for the wide buff and just make everything as sturdy as possible going into turn 4. We can see only the Mole would survive. It's a 2-1 at that point. But does FrOzen want more value out of this Hellfire?
Well, more importantly, let's look at, we've established that FrOzen is a big hand reader, right? So now there is 2 cards left in the opening hand that were mulliganed for and not used, or sorry, kept in mulligan and not used at this point. What does he give them credit for being? And if he thinks his opponent would keep, for example, a Hydra, does he have a setup to counter that? Is his best play against Bittertide Hydra just facelessing the Bittertide Hydra to try and contest it? These are all horrible questions that FrOzen needs to start asking himself.
Commit to Hellfire. Here comes the play you were waiting for, Sol. The coin into Hydra. What is FrOzen going to do? He does, though, a Faceless Manipulator, in which he could say, well, you got an AA, now I've got an AA. You can hit me once, but then maybe I can do something pretty cool as well. These are the games where sometimes you see Faceless on Hydra. JasonZhou goes face with his. FrOzen goes face with his cubes, and then Dark Packs it for 2 Hydras.
Oh God, please no.
We're all getting insight into how I played this deck on ladder. There is the two-turn kill of the Hydra as well, with the second Hellfire being picked up. But I think with 1 Hellfire already being cast, really want to hold on to that second one in case there's a follow-up Living Mana, for example.
It's also worth noting that Jason has 10 in play right now, plus 12, plus 6. He has 18 damage next turn with Master Yashar Savage Roar.
What you're saying is FrOzen save. Save.
It looks like he is going to try and set up that 2-turn clear we were talking about. Luckily, with the double buff on the Spellstone, 1 coming from the Hellfire, 1 coming from the Librarian, I believe, set him up into that position where he can potentially push through this. But he has nothing now that can resist the Hellfire. JasonZhou just has to go.
No choice. Can't do something with cards that aren't in your hand at this point. You have to play. It's what your hand tells you to do.
Oh, both Void Lords drawn. That reduces the power of Possessed Lackey so much against an aggro deck. He's now looking for that 1 outer of the Skull of the Minari as opposed to a 2 outer of the Possessed Lackey.
I'm scared for both players, Sol. I'm not even joking. Hellfire, although will clear up the board, At the end of the day, it still does damage to FrOzen, and he has no real way to heal this turn in hand. He'll have to wait till next turn.
Yeah, FrOzen had real potential game-winning draws that turn, and they were Mistress of Mixtures and Doomsayer. If he could Hellfire Doomsayer this turn and get a free turn next turn to develop onto this, or if he could Hellfire this turn, Mistress and Dark Pact himself up to an enormous amount of health, that would have carried him through to the point where he could just hard cast Void Lord onto the board and win the game. Without that, he's putting himself in trouble. There is the Mistress, though. One card late, but he is dead to second Savage Roar. That is not it.
I don't know if I can take this off.
You're gonna have to, mate. It's
I don't really have a choice, to be completely fair. FrOzen going for the life tap. What a brave play. You are just dead to Savage Roar this turn. He has already seen one big cast, so there is the safety net of saying he should not have it if you look at the odds.
Look at the stakes. Of the two, does FrOzen look more calm to you? He looks more calm to me.
A little bit, but they both look pretty nervous to me. It's the Zen focus where, at this point, the game is out of FrOzen's hands. As soon as the turn flicks over to FrOzen, he will probably look a little bit more nervous. Although Mistress of Mixtures, Dark Pact, absolutely.
Alongside a Spellbreaker that completely neutralizes the board.
Should he cube? Cube the Mistress?
Side effects.
You definitely could, yeah. It's between that and the Spellbreaker, but Dark Pacting the cube gives you a massive
so much
board
health
presence as well. Exactly.
So much health and minions. This is exactly what FrOzen wants. There's Living Mana for a refill. FrOzen does have a Defile.
There's no one.
But currently no activator.
Yeah.
But there can be a one with the Mistress, right?
But Jason can play around that by trading off his 1/2 and then hero powering down the remaining 2/1. Then there cannot be a 1.
There's the hero. This isn't Highlander. There cannot be one.
Good players, people. One of the weaknesses of Defile that people specifically called out in this metagame, in this tournament, is that it falls off a cliff in terms of power level when you play against good players. But now, the Spellbreaker!
Spellbreaker trade, you left the Firefly up. There was no choice for JasonZhou. There's a huge Defile. JasonZhou doesn't have much left except a second Living Mana.
Is it too late, though? We've hit the point where it's hard casting time for FrOzen. FrOzen just goes Void Lord, Gul'dan from this point. Living Mana's a hell of a card. It's not that good, Raven.
The main issue for the Void Lords versus Living Mana is there isn't a double buff available, right? The Living Mana is amazing with 3 attack, but it dies to the Void Lord trades. FrOzen hardcasting the Void Lord. He also has the flexibility depending on what goes on here of maybe Faceless and something else depending on what he draws, so it's not guaranteed hardcast next turn. He might just go Gul'dan.
So very possible.
I will have one Void Lord and 3 Void Walkers, thank you very much, and 5 armor and a hero power that kills a minion a turn. Crit Lord, just not what JasonZhou needs. Needed buffs. You need to make these trades as efficiently as possible and not lose his board in the process. Is this the end for the back-to-back top 4 Chinese player JasonZhou?
It's looking like it. Void Lord is a very big boy, and there is no Spellbreaker in JasonZhou's deck to put through it. When I've asked players about this, they say that they feel Spellbreaker is unnecessary, that it doesn't add too much, that you need to chain buffs
Is this
to
going to be Doomsayer?
And this is a incredible setup now for FrOzen to nuke this board. He doesn't care about his board state. He can bring it all back 100 times over. It's JasonZhou's board that matters, and that's the look of resignation from JasonZhou. FrOzen is going to take his lineup marching forward to the finals of the Hearthstone World Championship.